When the boss throws his food on the ground, our protagonist looked at his stats and was surprised at his strength, but luckily our MC is faster than the boss. The boss suddenly yelled at him so hard that books and other things were thrown away. The boss then ran towards our protagonist with open arms and shouted, "Eat!" Confused that the zombie lord is so fast, he tries to run away. As he ran away, he noticed a hanging sign pointing to the snacks department. He jumped up and grabbed the shield. He then pulled his legs up, causing the boss to run past him. When our zombie player landed back on the ground, the zombie lord crashed into the wall. Confused, our MC wonders if the boss spoke earlier. But he thinks he misheard, so he decides to kill him quickly and moves to him quickly. With a knife in his hand he lunged at him. But when he tried to ram the knife into him, the knife didn't go through the skin. The boss yelled "Kill" and punched our MC away from him. He collided with glass. He spits blood and wonders if his commander skills work against him. The boss ran to him again. Our protagonist then used his abilities and yelled "Stop." After that, the boss couldn't move anymore, which our MC took advantage of directly to injure the boss's legs with his knife as he slipped between his legs. He immediately ran on, since he alone has no chance of defeating him. The boss shouted at him annoyed. He jumped the escalator to the second floor where the zombie horde is gathering. He thinks he can stop the fat guy by blocking the escalator with his horde. Finally, the boss reached the escalator and lets out a loud groan as the horde goes upstairs to him. He easily grabbed a normal zombie's head and ripped it from his body, which the other zombies watched in horror. He then threw the corpse into the crowd of zombies, probably hoping the horde would eat the zombie. Unexpectedly, however, the crowd rushed towards him and nibbled at his flesh. Our MC took the opportunity while the boss was busy with the others and ran towards the boss over the zombies' heads, and cut him all over his body with the knife, causing the boss to fall over and unable to move. While the zombies are nibbling on the boss and our zombie player is taking a breather, we see 3 helicopters flying outside through the windows. Our protagonist doesn't notice this at first and wonders how the boss managed to be able to speak, even though his intelligence is higher than that of the boss. But then he hears the helicopters and finally looks out the window. The system informs Ling Yan that a special event is taking place in the area and that the military will be here in the next 48 hours. In addition, this event will trigger other side missions that may lead to further clues to the main mission. Our MC is now happy that he is finally making progress on his main task. He opened his blue window and got more information that he has a hidden mission triggered by the special event that he has to go to the hospital and find a trapped doctor. For that he gets hints of the main mission. Our MC remarks that the mission won't be that easy. Before he could think further, he sensed something dangerous behind him as the system told him zombies would be more active at 9 p.m. Without thinking further, our MC knew the boss was still alive. But before our protagonist could do anything, the boss bit off a piece of flesh from his arm as he ran past our MC. Although our player's pain is reduced as a zombie, it still hurts a lot. He used his abilities again to attack the other zombies, the boss. While the boss is dealing with the zombie horde, our protagonist ran away complaining that he was being too careless. In the next scene we see our MC in front of a love medical room on the first floor. He goes inside and finds many drugs and substances. He patches his arm, thinking that the normal zombies want the fat one so they can damage him. He's looking out the door with a bottle of Molotov cocktail in hand when he hears a groan. He stops at a narrow passage and waits for the fat man to attack him here, since the boss cannot move freely here due to his size. The boss finally came out of the corner with many open wounds and said "Kill." But then he moves towards our player at high speed, surprised by the vitality of the boss. Our protagonist has thrown the Molotov cocktail bottle on his head. The fire then spreads throughout the zombie lord's body. Without hesitation, our protagonist lunged at him with his knife. And says goodbye while ramming his knife into him. Tired, he leaned against the wall, whereupon the system congratulated him on defeating a Lord rank zombie. Then he opened his blue window to confirm. Then he started to heal. And he got 45 experience points and a territory lord buff. Unfortunately, the buff is limited at this mall. Suddenly he hears the military. In disbelief, he sees the army coming towards him. The army ran into the building while one shouted at the others to eliminate all zombies. When they hit the zombies, the soldiers already started shooting. Probably due to the territory buff, our MC got mad that these people were entering his territory. Then suddenly they brought in some armored vehicles, which surprised our protagonist. And then wondered if the army would settle here. We are now outside next to the supermarket. Some soldiers keep shooting zombies and others build fences. While two people are tying up the last fences, two more soldiers bring a generator into the camp. They push the generator into the supermarket where our MC watches everything while the soldiers pull the bodies out of the supermarket. Now he realizes that the soldiers are building their bases here in this mall. They turned on the generator and the lights came on. A soldier then reported to the captain that all of the zombies in the mall had been killed and that the area is perfect for defense and that they are close to their objective. Then the captain orders the soldier to send some people over tomorrow to check on the situation and radio that the army wants to take in citizens here in the mall. The system informs Ling Yan that his body is rotting away. Our protagonist realizes that his wound is getting worse and worse and if he doesn't run away, he will die here. Our MC will now use his analysis ability to find a way out. But then he notices a person who feels strange. Then the person, Ian, squats down next to a corpse and searches it and looks around very, very unobtrusively. He must be a player, our Ling Yan thought. Our player then went to a room where he can find clothes for himself to disguise himself so he doesn't get exposed. With a hat, sunglasses, washcloth, gloves and leather coat, he is now perfectly equipped to avoid being suspected of being a zombie. He then waits on a closet until the player comes into the room alone. He lunged at the player, one hand covering his mouth and the other holding his knife to his throat. In the next scene we see the player tied up with ropes and with a cloth in his mouth while our player writes something on a notebook. He showed the player his notebook, which said not to scream or otherwise he does not mind making him lose all the items he worked hard to collect. Our MC indicates that he will now ask him a few questions and should answer them. If he should call the others, he will kill him before he can kill him. The player nodded vigorously. Our protagonist then took the cloth from his mouth. First, our protagonist asked how he came to his identity. He replied that when he creates a character, they give him a random profession, and he is lucky that he learned this profession privately. The second question is what is his current mission? He replied that the system gave him a notification to go to the hospital to get the next mission. But then the player got a new mission, which should choose whether to kill the stranger, that is our MC, or cooperate with him. This surprised the player as it's the first time he's received a new mission so quickly. He was then in favor of befriending our MC as you don't have to fight in a game because they are players. Then he asked our protagonist why he is not speaking. He replied that he had some bugs and therefore could not speak. At the same time, our protagonist received a favor point from the player. Our player told his new buddy that he has a similar mission, that he also has to go to the hospital and that's why he wants to work with him, but his buddy has to cover for him and prevent the army from seeing him. His buddy agreed. Our MC has to rush out of the mall and fight zombies to level up so he doesn't get zombie spots. Outside the mall, he felt the aura of an elite monster. The aura led to the abandoned residential building. Then he found the building where the boss was supposed to be, but in the current state of our MC, it's far too risky to challenge him. But there is no other zombie around. Determined, he ran into the building and said he could only try. He was now on the floor where his pressure is strongest, which means he should be hidden on that floor. Bones and skeletons were everywhere. He wondered why the patient is costume. Suddenly he hears a noise behind a door at the end of the corridor. The elite monster slammed the door open. The monster had bony spikes all over its body. Whereupon our MC immediately pulls out his knife. But the boss was faster than expected and rammed his sharp bones into our protagonist's shoulder. Annoyed, Ling Yan realizes that he only has 7 HP left. Then he yelled at the monster for making him do this. He grabbed one of the boss's bones. He jumped out the window screaming that if he didn't do anything he would die. Let's see who is luckier and survives. The two fell from a very high floor. As the two fell, the boss pokes his bones into our player's thorns. But our Ling Yan didn't give up and grabbed the monster's head and pushed it down. He yelled at the monster again, "Even if I die I'll drag you with me, let's see if you're strong enough to get through this." The two fell to the ground. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe.